It's the Trash Player League. Let's get it. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to FLCN, presenting the Trash Player League Week 14, the final week of the regular season. So we are officially stepping into playoff territory. And guess what? Some of us didn't make it. Some of you are out there just sitting on the sideline watching this video, wondering what shit I gotta talk and all that. But hey, I don't have too much to talk because I'm one of you. I am one of the lowly people that did not make it to the playoffs this year. I suck. It is what it is. I guess I shouldn't talk shit. Psych! You think I'm not going to talk shit? I don't care if I didn't make it to the playoffs. I beat most of you out there, and I still have a better team than most of you out there. It's just unfortunate the way the cookie crumbles, you know what I'm saying? Some people have said in the past, and I quote, the game is going to be the game. And that's just how it goes. So the game didn't favor me this year. The fantasy football gods didn't like me this year. So that's why we bleep them and we just move on. And we're going to talk about this fantasy football stuff as we always do. And we're going to keep presenting this content as we always do. But with that being said, it's not much here. You see, I'm here by myself, solo dolo. I was the only person that was able to show up. Some of us may be sulking and sad because, you know, we didn't make the playoffs. So we couldn't muster up the energy to get here today. But that's okay. I got enough energy for everybody. I'm here to show all of you guys what's up. I'm here for you. I'll be your presenter. I'll be your huckleberry. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, with that being said, let's get into this 3 and out. You know what we always do. We're going to do the 3 and out right now. All right. So, all right, guys. Look, here we go. Here goes the matchups from week 14, the final week of the regular season. And now let's look at what happened, how everything played out. Bleep Fantasy Football Guides defeated I Love Cam Newton, officially closing the door on his playoff hopes. Your player got hurt, lost to Big Trust. Boomer Bust defeated Corey's championship team. Raw Dog Supreme lost to FTW this week. Labarticus Prime defeated We Not from 750, and Indie Animals lost to Reese's Buttercup team. So there you have it, folks. That's what transpired this week. Now let's get into it. Indie Animals versus Reese's Buttercup team. Indie Animals takes a horrific defeat here to the score of 88.74 to 115.42. Indie Animals did make the playoffs, but as you can see here, he doesn't deserve to be there. He lost to Reese's Buttercup team this week, and he lost pretty bad. I mean, this score is pathetic. He better not go into the playoffs with that type of score because he'll be out right away. But anyway, let's look at it here. Let's see what happened to make it this score this way. So right off the top, we see Ryan Tannehill gives him jack shit. Ryan Tannehill gives him 14.54 points. And they were going up against Jacksonville. So Ryan Tannehill only gets 191 yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 29 rushing yards. The opposing team's Patrick Mahomes, who got 22 points, 2 passing TDs, 258 yards, and 20 rushing yards. Looking at their receivers, Terry McLaurin on Reese's Buttercup team gave her exactly 0. He gave her 0, and yet that was still enough for her to come away with the victory because, well, you know what? Indianapolis just suck, and that's why, I guess. But Stephon Diggs, Jarvis Landry wasn't enough to do it this week because you see here, Stephon Diggs did give him 14 points. Jarvis Landry gave him 15. And now Jarvis Landry is on the COVID list. So that doesn't bode well for week 15. Now moving forward, we have Nick Chubb, who gave him only 9 points this week. Sony Michel giving him only 7. And that's where things get a little ugly for him, because on the flip side, Reese's Buttercup team gave her 14.90 points from Devin Singletary. This may be the best point total that he's had all season, which isn't saying a lot because that's not good. Yeah, he only had 17 points in week 2, but he showed up with enough points this week to give Reese's Buttercup team the victory. And Melvin Gordon III has 2 touchdowns, 111 yards to the tune of 23 points. So yeah, right here you start to get an idea of where Indianapolis lost this matchup. You see that it just doesn't really get that much better because Buckler, her kicker, gave her 14 points. Meanwhile, Carlson only gives Indianapolis 2. And Green Bay gives Reese's Buttercup team here 12 points as well. Let's look at the benches and see if anything could have changed Indianapolis' fate this week. And as we can see here, absolutely not. His bench is just well, it's a hospital world. You got Ward. I mean, you have questionable COVID, IR, and then these other 2 guys are on bye. It's pretty ugly over here for the Indianapolis. I'm wondering what they're going to do when it comes time for the playoffs. That's going to be interesting. We'll get into that later, though. But on the flip side, it looks like Reese's Buttercup team came to play this week because she started all the right people. Everybody that she started was the best possible start that she could have had. So kudos to her for coming away with this victory, although it was in vain because she still does not make the playoffs. And what's funny about that is that had it not been for this tie, she may have very well made the playoffs this year. But because she had a tie with We Not from 750, she does not. But speaking of We Not from 750, let's get into that matchup. Labarticus Prime versus We Not from 750. Labarticus Prime continues his domination of the league and scores high yet again with 167 points flat to 113.04 for We Not from 750. Labarticus Prime, as you can see here, Justin Herbert just had a field day, 29 points. Actually practically 30, 29.9 points here for Justin Herbert. 3 passing TDs, 275 passing yards, 19 rushing yards, excuse me. On the flip side though, Aaron Rodgers did have the better day. Aaron Rodgers had 4 passing TDs, 341 passing yards, 3 sacks. So he lost 3 points there on his day because of the sacks, but still he came away with 36 points on the day, so that's very huge here. Now, I do want to point out that We Not from 750 did actually get production from a recent trade that he had this week. He traded for Amari Cooper, and Amari Cooper actually came out okay this week with 16 points, which was 1 receiving touchdown, 51 receiving yards, and 5 receptions. On the flip side, though, Tyler Lockett just blows that right out the water because you have Tyler Lockett who had a massive day, 142 yards, 1 receiving touchdowns on only 5 receptions. So it is what it is when it comes to that. We Not From 750 never fixed his Allen Robinson problem, and that very much pretty much just explains why his record has been what it is all season. He is 4-9-1, and when you look at his roster, it's not hard to see why things ended up this way. You go down to the running backs here. Austin Eckler had a great day. Well, not a great day, but he had a good day. He had 67 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire on the other end had 2 rushing touchdowns, 37 rushing yards, and 3 receptions. Leonard Fournette for We Not From 750 actually ended up being the star, and that was somebody that I did not believe in at all this season. But Leonard Fournette has come up clutch this season, and I will say this to We Not From 750. Hey man, you stuck with him, you played him every single time, and he came up big in a lot of spots for you. One spot in particular where you played them against me, hey, I lost the game, and had I not lost that game, I would probably be in the playoffs right now. But when you're 6-8, there's a lot of games that you could look back on and say, had I not lost this game, I would be in the playoffs. So either way, fuck it, I suck. So we're going to scroll on down right here. Labarticus Prime gets 23 points from Dallas defense. And I will say this, I know that he's a homer guy, but playing Dallas defense against Washington, who has been rolling, who has been on a 5-game win streak, that might have been a risky play. At least some would have thought that, but no, it turns out that it was the right play. Dallas gives them 23 points. They recover 3 fumbles, have a touchdown, and 5 sacks. Huge deal. Very huge deal. Great production for Labarticus Prime there. Let's look at the benches and see if anything would have changed the fate of We Not From 750. If he had played AJ Green, he would have got more points over Allen Robinson, but it wouldn't have changed his fate. It's just, it would have made the score look prettier. It would have looked a little bit better for him if he had did that. So there you have it, folks. So moving on, going into the next matchup, Raw Dog Supreme takes an L to FTW. Raw Dog Supreme scores 100.40 to FTW's 134.78. Here we see Raw Dog Supreme take the L, but he still secures the last spot of the playoffs at 7-7, and FTW improves his position to 3rd place at 8-6. Now let's look at the numbers of the players here. You have Russell Wilson giving Raw Dog Supreme 25 points today, and Russell Wilson hasn't been great all season. He's been injured, so getting some real production from Russell Wilson has to be encouraging for Raw Dog Supreme, seeing how now they're stepping into the playoff phase. He gets 2 passing touchdowns, 260 yards, and 1 2-point conversion. Matthew Stafford continues his season of, I guess, just solid work. 3 passing touchdowns, 287 passing yards. He does suffer 3 sacks there, so this could have been a 30-point day for him, but it just turned out not to be, which doesn't matter because we're in the playoffs now. So, and then you have, I would like to point out, Brandon Cooks returns to form. He had some low weeks in the last couple of games, or last few games rather, but Brandon Cooks shows up this week with 18 points Yep, see, like you had a few matchups here where Brandon Cooks just didn't have it. And, well, here he is. He's back on top. Brandon Cooks gives 18 points here, 101 reception yards on 8 receptions. Couldn't ask for more, but Raw Dog Supreme could definitely ask for more from DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins gives him 5 receptions, 54 yards, and that only equals out to 10 points on the day. With a player like DeAndre Hopkins, a player that you traded for, you do not want those numbers. Hopefully DeAndre Hopkins is getting healthier as they move along, because if he's not, Raw Dog Supreme's dreams of getting a championship this year may very well be over before they start. So, scrolling down even further, Alvin Kamara returns this week to the field, and he has 120 rushing yards, 1 rushing touchdowns, and 4 receptions, which is a big deal. I know FTW is glad to have their guy back. In looking at the flex position, you have Brandon Ayuk, who has 6 receptions and a rushing touchdown. And a receiving touchdown, and to the tune of 18 points. So if I'm looking at it here, it looks like it just comes down to the fact that your FTW's players are better than yours, I guess, at least this week. So I can't really point to say anybody started the wrong guys. It just wasn't your week, Raw Dog, but hopefully better days come ahead for you. Looking at the bench to see if anything would change their fates. No, it is what it is. They played the right people pretty much here. So Raw Dog Supreme, now looking at your bench, I see exactly what happened here. You were missing some guys. When you get into the playoffs, things may change for you. I would imagine that Christian Kirk will not be getting any starts in the playoffs, and you're probably going to be riding or dying with Waddle here in that starting position. And then you also lost the best running back in the game this season due to bye. So you had a few guys on bye week that really hurt you. So it could have been different had these guys not been on bye, but it is what it is. Good luck to you in the playoffs. Good luck to both of you in the playoffs, actually. Now moving on to the next team in the lineup. It's Team Boomer Bust versus Corey's championship team. I did have a conversation, or a brief conversation through text with Team Boomer Bust, and I did let them know that it's pretty much fuck him respectably all day. Pause, whatever you guys say, but it's pretty much fuck him respectably. You know what I'm saying? Like, all love lost now. You know what I mean? Just a little backstory for you guys that's out there. I lost to this dude, and that was the last loss that I had. And had I won that game, I lost inexplicably, and I talked about it several times. But had I not lost, I would be in the playoffs right now. And what hurts me is that it happened in 2 leagues. It didn't happen in 1. It happened in 2. I got locked out of the playoffs by this gentleman in 2 leagues. So yeah, fuck him. And then he don't show up to work. Like, it's always the dark motherfuckers that don't show up to work. Excuse me. But anyway, moving on. Boomer Bust wins 129.22 to 64.58. Here, as always, Josh Allen has saved the day for Team Boomer Bust. Josh Allen always shows up. Like, if Josh Allen doesn't show up for Team Boomer Bust, he probably would be like 3-9 or 2-9 or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, the dude can't win a game without him. Like, he would be awful without this dude. But Josh Allen has showed up for him all season, and here it is. He showed up yet again. Lamar Jackson got knocked out of the game. You can't predict that. That's just something that's unfortunate. But I do want to go down to the fact that George Kittle had yet another great performance. This is back-to-back phenomenal performances here. 39 last week, 34 this week. If George Kittle is rounding into form, Team Boomer Bust may be going into a boom and less of a bust. But he's going to need that because he's getting all bust from every other area here. Tyreek Hill only gets 11 this week. Gage, who had a great game last week, only gets 10 this week. And Mike Williams continues the seesaw performance that he's had all season, and he only got 12. But this was enough to get him the victory this week. And on the flip side, Corey's championship team, he got a good game from Justin Jefferson, but nobody else wanted to do anything for him. It seems like he fell asleep at the wheel here and gave up because Higbee wasn't going to play this game, and he left him there anyway. But like, looking at the score, he never really had it. It wasn't like a tight end was going to change anything for him. So I get it. It is what it is. Yeah, man, he couldn't get nothing out of Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt has not been the same player since coming back from injury. So it's quite unfortunate. Young Ho Koo, which has probably been one of the top kickers this season, gives 12 points, but his ride ends here. He does not go to the playoffs. Corey's championship team, they're locked out. So here we go. Looking at the bench, absolutely nothing could have changed his fate. Starting Mike Davis would have helped Boomer Bust here get a higher score, but it really wouldn't have mattered for him too much. The only issue here is that he's going to have to figure out who he's going to start going forward, whether it's going to be Mike Davis, Chuba Hubbard, and Jacobs. I would imagine Jacobs is getting a start all season, so it's going to come down to Chuba Hubbard or Mike Davis. But going into the next matchup here, we have Your Player Got Hurt versus Big Trust. Your Player Got Hurt puts up a score of 127.32 to Big Trust's 198.62. This is probably the highest scoring game, or the highest scoring. Yes, this is the highest score, of the season. Big Trust puts up 198.62. So Your Player Got Hurt never had a chance to go up against that, despite having decent production from certain areas that he's been looking for all season. Like I said, he's been looking for great production all season, and he gets good production from Joe Burrow here, who has 348 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, but he does suffer 5 sacks, so that's 5 points that was snatched right out of Your Player Got Hurt's mouth there. And on the flip side, you have Tom Brady, who has a 363-yard passing day, 2 passing TDs, and somehow manages a rushing touchdown. So kudos to him on the week. And then you scroll down just a smidge. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Big Trust had both of these players, and it showed up to work out. This group here has done big things for him. This is This combined is 74 points. And it's been helping him all season. He's been riding that all season, and it's been working out. Like we had concerns about it, but I guess when Antonio Brown went out, all those concerns went away, and it looks like it's going to be that way going forward. Deontay Johnson gets 15 points here, which is very respectable. Osborne for Minnesota gives 17 points for your player got hurt. He picked him up this week and he gets 17 points. That's a clutch pickup by your player got hurt. Joe Mixon, though, only getting 8 points this week, despite having a great season, is not ideal. It's not what you're looking for. And I feel pain for your player got hurt, because when you're trying to go out with a bang and Joe Mixon doesn't show up, it sucks. Instead of going out with a bang, you go out with a whimper here. Najee Harris gives your player got hurt 25. But Aaron Jones for Green Bay matches that, and Saquon actually shows up with a good point total here. 18 points, 5 to the tune of 64 rushing yards, 1 receiving touchdown, and 31 receiving yards. The big thing I want to point out here is that Mark Andrews, with no Lamar Jackson, got 28 points. He had 115 yards, 11 receptions, and 1 receiving touchdown. Maybe Huntley being in the start will do big things for Mark Andrews going forward. We will see, because if you could get that type of production, I would want Huntley to keep starting, even though they probably not going to win games. But and also I wanted to bring up that he started Tennessee's defense this week, who went up against Jacksonville, so that's a pretty safe start there. And Tennessee defense gives them 23 points. They completely shut out Jacksonville, get 4 interceptions and 3 sacks. Let's look at the bench and see if anything could have changed their fate. All right, so James Conner is on the bench of Big Trust, and he is sitting on the bench with 33 points here. Like, he got great production from everybody, but I know if he had started at 33, I always think about this type of stuff when I'm playing, and maybe it's because I'm a little greedy. Despite having everybody go off on my team, if I have that one guy that scored higher than someone else, I think about that, because I want that score to be even higher. But it is what it is. That can also bite you sometimes, and so. But on the flip side, you have Rashad Penny, who got 26.80 points for the Seahawks this week, 137 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 1 reception. And he's on the bench here. I would not have started him over Joe Mixon and Najee Harris. And if we look at it here, we can look at his numbers all season. He has been back since November 14th, I believe. No, he's been back since week 7. Yeah, he's been back since week 7, and it's been ugly. He's done nothing. So this was the first time he actually did anything, and nobody was expecting that. So I understand not starting him, and he's not Joe Mixon or Najee Harris. I mean, you could have started him over Jeff Wilson, but like I said, I just pointed out all the reasons why you wouldn't there. This just and even with that score, it wouldn't have been enough to win. So it's unfortunate. You just went up against the highest scorer of the season. It looks like Big Trust has a great chance to actually win this whole thing. But I really hope that doesn't happen though. Now, lastly, we're going to go into the last matchup here. We have Fuck the Fantasy Football Gods versus I Love Cam Newton. Fuck the Fantasy Football Gods. I actually had a chance to play spoiler and crush all hopes that I Love Cam Newton had of making the playoffs because I couldn't make the playoffs, and well, I did exactly that. I came in, I saw, and I destroyed. I destroyed Fuck the Fantasy Football Gods. I won by 148.82 to 134.04. As we can see here, I got 383 passing yards and 61 rushing yards, 2 interceptions from Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray still only had 15.42 points. He took a few sacks here today, threw 2 interceptions, and so it rolled out to 15 points despite the many yards that he had on the day. But on the flip side, I Love Cam Newton has gotten nothing from Dak Prescott. 211 pass yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. I Love Cam Newton has had up and down, a very uneven season, to say the least. Dak Prescott has been hurt. Dalvin Cook has been hurt and out. He's been dealing with injuries off and on all season, and that's how he ends up with this mark here. And with the record that he has. But Dak Prescott was supposedly healthy and did nothing this week. I know these aren't the type of scores that you drafted this guy for. I mean, he gave you 12 last week, 9 this week. This isn't what you expect when you drafted him. Looking at the receivers here, I do want to point out that it's a little too late, but Jamar Chase actually gave me some points this week. Jamar Chase gave me 25 this week, 2 receiving touchdowns, 77 receiving yards, and on 5 receptions. Thank you for that, but fuck you as well, because I could have used that any other time in the season, you know what I'm saying, since I traded for you. Devontae Adams, I'm sorry, buddy. I failed you. I couldn't bring you to the playoffs, you know what I mean? Like, you're the second best receiver on the season, more than likely. I haven't looked at the numbers exactly, but more than likely, you're the second best receiver on the season, and you're on a losing team. I apologize. It is what it is. And then, but on the other side, I Love Cam Newton finally got a good game out of Odell Beckham. I Love Cam Newton has went down with the ship like on the Titanic, and he was playing the violin the whole time, hoping for Odell Beckham to actually do something. And Odell Beckham, he revives himself for I Love Cam Newton here, gives him 19 points, but it's too late. It doesn't matter. None of it matters anymore because I Love Cam Newton is locked out. James Robinson gives 0 points here. I do want to point out that despite getting 2 0 scores, I still won this matchup. I thought that was very interesting that I practically got a 0 from James Robinson, and I got 0s from Buffalo, and I still won despite that. I found that to be very interesting. Also, given the fact that I Love Cam Newton got 2 30-point performances, 1 from Cooper Kupp and 1 from Dalvin Cook. Like, very rare occasions will you see something like that happen, and that would be great, and I would be thankful for it if it mattered at all. It doesn't. We're both on the outside looking in, so too little too late for the favoritism, I guess. Let's look at the bench, see if anything would have changed the fates here. right here, yes, it would. Taysom Hill, had he got the start, would have changed the fate for I Love Cam Newton. I Love Cam Newton would have. I Love Cam Newton would have won this game had he started Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill had 2 rushing touchdowns, 73 rushing yards, and 175 passing yards. But he did not give him the start, and so therefore he takes the L this week. I Love Cam Newton has had a history this season of having guys on the bench that could have increased his score or given him a W. So this is something that he needs to look into going forward for the next season and see if he could correct that, because that is a recurring trend for this team. But anyway, guys, that concludes the 3 and Out, where we go over the Week 14 post-game analysis matchups. Now let's just look at the playoff picture and see what's what. All right, so here's their official playoff picture. This is how everything is actually going to work out in the end. Labarticus Prime has a bye week this week. He has a well-deserved rest this week. He has been kicking ass and taking names all season, and here he is, the number 1 seeded team in the league. He has his bye week, and Big Trust, it came down to the wire. He got his bye week. He ended up in second place because Indianapolis came up short, did not win. And so with that loss, Indianapolis dropped to 4. Big Trust, with his huge victory, goes up to 2. And Big Trust has earned himself a bye week as well. Now, here we go. Indianapolis versus Boom or Bust this week. They are in the quarterfinals of the playoffs at FTW versus Raw Dog Supreme. All right. So, as we can see here, let's just go ahead and get into these matchups now, since we're already here. We're going to go with team 4 or 5 here right away. Indianapolis versus Boom or Bust. So, Indianapolis, the computer is saying Indianapolis is going to take this L, 122.88 to 126.09. Indianapolis is going with Tua Tagovailoa at the start here. Stephon Diggs, who he actually got from Team Boom or Bust. Nick Chubb, who's going up against Las Vegas. Sony Michel going up against the Seahawks. So I'm not going to bore you guys with too much information here. I'm just going to straight up say that Josh Allen going up against Carolina is a very huge deal. That's going to be big, man. Josh Allen has pretty much had all 30-point performances all season, except for 2 games, maybe the Blizzard game, and so yeah, the Blizzard game. No, so yeah, 3 games. Actually, I'm not even going to do the numbers on that. I'm just going to say he's had quite a few huge weeks. Let's just put it at that. 37, 33. Like, he's had big games all season, so no need to do all the numbers and shit. But you have Tyreek Hill going up against the Chargers this week. This will be an interesting matchup. I expect Tyreek Hill to have a big day, especially given the fact that he had a lighter day this past week. But it's a Thursday night matchup. Thursday night matchups do sometimes be weird. I wish I had somebody here to bounce my ideas off of. But George Kittle going up against Atlanta, that's massive. That's really big. He's, like I said, he's had 2 massive performances in a row, and now he's going up against a soft team like Atlanta. So actually, you know what? It's just this right here. I think Josh Allen going up against Carolina, who's in shambles, and George Kittle going up against Atlanta, whose defense is absolutely horrid, is enough for me to pretty much call it. And I'm going to pick Team Boomer Bust for this victory. And I'm going to say Any Animals goes out in round 1 of the playoffs. Okay, so Raw Dog Supreme goes up against FTW this week. Raw Dog Supreme has Russell Wilson going up against the Rams. I would not feel comfortable with that start. Matthew Stafford going up against the Seahawks. So we have opposing quarterbacks here going up against each other. Brandon Cooks going up against Jacksonville. That should be huge. Michael Pittman going up against New England is not ideal. Alvin Kamara going up against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's defense has been soft as of late. You can actually do some things there. Jonathan Taylor going up against New England. He may have a good day, but who knows? DeAndre Hopkins going up against Detroit. That's a huge deal. Hopefully he's healthy enough to do something here. Let's look at what the news is for DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins is set to undergo an MRI on his leg. So he suffered a leg injury and he's set to have an MRI this week. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and say that Raw Dog Supreme could win this game because Jalen Waddle is going up against the Jets. And then you have Jonathan Taylor, who can do big things despite going up against New England. But right now, it's not the numbers are stacked against Raw Dog Supreme, and the computer feels as though the same. The Raw Dog Supreme is an underdog by 64%. FTW is favored to win this game by 64%. So we're going to pick FTW for this win. There's not much to be said there besides that. Now, I know you guys like, well, that's the end of the matchups, except for it's not the end of the matchups. There's more matchups to be had. The consolation bracket is going on. We have Fuck Fantasy Football Guides. They're on by. Reese's Buttercup team is also on by this week. But your player got hurt. He has a game this week versus Corey's championship team. So let's look at that matchup and see who can win this game, because essentially we're playing to see who's going to end up in last place. I think that'll be something to do going forward, is to actually have something for the last place person. Maybe they have to do something or whatever, but like people would have to be down for that and not be punks about it. But I feel like people will probably be punks about it and not want to participate. But anyway, let's look at it here. Lamar Jackson suffered a leg injury and they're going up against Green Bay. So that's not a safe start, or a start that I would be willing to have right now. Justin Jefferson going up against Chicago. Divisional games can be weird. And Chicago did decent enough against Green Bay in the first half. Maybe they could string together a whole game against Minnesota. Anyway, honestly, like looking at it here, I think if Corey's championship team figures out a different quarterback, things will be different. I think Corey's championship team could actually win this, and he has to get rid of Kareem Hunt here, especially seeing how he is now doubtful for the game. He has to do something about that. So I'm going to pick Corey's championship team for this victory this week. Because unfortunately your player got hurt, has had terrible luck, and I just see this not going well. No other reason really. And then you have We Not From 750 going up against I Love Cam Newton. Alright, so We Not From 750, Odell Beckham is on COVID, so more than likely he's not playing this week. And then you have, I'm not familiar with that dude at all. I'm not familiar with Moreau at all. I mean, he's going to be playing for Waller. I get that, but nope. So I'm going to just call it right now, and I'm going to say We Not From 750 gets a big game from his guys this week. I'm going to say, nah, I'm not going to mess with you like that. I Love Cam Newton is going to get this victory. Dak Prescott better beat the Giants, and he better have a big game against the Giants. So, and then there's always Cooper Kupp, who's the great equalizer. So we're going to pick I Love Cam Newton for this victory. Well, seeing how it's the end of the regular season, let's just go over the record books for one final time, and see how things have shaked out this season. See who got the highest scores, who got the lows, and who was in between. So let's just go ahead and look at it now. Let's look at the record books for the regular season of the Trash Player League. All right, so right away we see here in the head-to-head matchup, the most wins goes to Labarticus Prime here, who had 12 wins on the season. Most wins in the season all time, seeing how this is the first year ever, would definitely go to Labarticus Prime. The longest win streak also goes to Labarticus Prime with 8, again with the all-time, and this is all part of his current win streak. So Labarticus Prime, when it comes to the wins record, he owns all of them. Now when it comes to the losses record, most losses goes to We Not From 750. It's a 3-way tie for most losses on the season. We Not From 750, your player got hurt, and Corey's championship team all tie for the most losses on the season, again with the all-time record as well. But the longest losing streak does go to Fuck the Fantasy Football Guys at 6, losing 6 straight. And that's the longest one losing streak all time as well. The current losing streak goes to Raw Dog Supreme, who has lost 4 straight, and despite that has made the playoffs. All right. So now we're going to go into the margin of victory, who has had the largest margin of victory all season, and that goes to in a single week, it was I Love Cam Newton versus Corey's championship team with a margin of 91.62 points. This was back in week 6, so that's the all-time record. But the average margin of victory with the largest goes to Big Trust at 44 points. And this week has a lot to do with it. this week. I'm pretty sure this week where he scored 198 and to 127, that helped bring his margin of victory up a whole lot. Again, the smallest margin of victory here. This is not. Oh, Reese's Buttercup team versus Big Trust is the single week smallest margin of victory, where Reese's Buttercup team took that win there, and that would also be the single all-time record as well. We've explained this many times. This ended up being a tie, so this record is no longer correct. But on average, Reese's Buttercup team has had the lowest margin of victory all season. She has been essentially skating by on the skin of her teeth. Largest margin of defeat on average goes to Your Player Got Hurt, which is interesting there. And the smallest margins of defeat goes to Big Trust on the season as well. Okay. Strength of schedule. Hardest strength of schedule goes to Your Player Got Hurt. He had 130 to 0.91 there. So it's unfortunate, but Your Player Got Hurt pretty much just fought everybody at the wrong times. And the strength of schedule who had the easiest goes to Team Boomer Bust, which is, I guess, is plainly obvious because his team isn't very good, and yet he's in the playoffs. And it has a lot to do with the fact that he has had an easy schedule all season. He's played everybody at the right times when when they wasn't able to do much. All right, so now let's look at some other areas here. Let's look at team points here in the record book. All right, so most team points in a single week goes to Big Trust at 198.62. The highest season average goes to Lombardica's Prime. Things will change as we continue to go and continue to play more seasons with each other in this league. Team points with the least goes to in a single week goes to Your Player Got Hurt versus We Not From 750 there. So and that was 63 points. So 63 points was the lowest scoring total of all season, and that goes to Your Player Got Hurt. But yeah, looking at the season average here, you have Your Player Got Hurt. He has the lowest team points on season average. Offensive points, most in a single week goes to Corey's championship team, and season average goes to Big Trust. Least goes to Reese's Buttercup team, and she had the season average for offensive points. Most kicking points in a single week, I guess this happened twice, was 21 points, was Boomer Bust versus Big Trust, and Indie Animals versus I Love Cam Newton. The season average goes to Boomer Bust and FTW with 137 points, so that's 9.78 points a week from kickers. That's good to know. Four teams have had 0 points from a kicker this season, and Corey's championship team averaged the least. Wow. Okay. So we're looking at these numbers. You see defensive points. I've had the least defensive points all season. I got -4 when I played Team Boomer Bust. And that essentially, several things just didn't go my way. My heart hurts. Season average of least defensive points goes to Indie Animals and Fuck the Fantasy Football Guides. Indiana started Chicago's Bears defense several times this season, and that has led to his losses several times as well, because they've given him -2 points multiple times. But Fuck the Fantasy Football Guys ties him with that. And that was a team that he actually traded for the Buffalo Bills, and yet they've turned around to disappoint him. What can you do? Most points from drafted players goes to Big Trust. And that was in week 5. He had 176 points from his drafted players in a single week. That's actually really impressive. But we also know where that comes from. A lot of it comes from that trio that he has. And then you have the season average also going to Big Trust, largely due to the trio. We made fun of the trio, and we've had issues with it, but it worked out. Regardless of how it worked out or why it worked out, and that's all that really matters there. The least amount of points from drafted players goes to your player got hurt in a single week, which was in week 7. He got 17 points from his drafted players. That's impressive as well. So that shows a lot. That's a lot. It's crazy. And he also has the season average here. Points from post-draft acquisitions. In a single week goes to Raw Dog Supreme with 119 from post acquisitions. And Bleep Fantasy Football Guides apparently has been playing the waiver wire pretty well, because he got a good average of post draft acquisition points of 60.36 there. So, and this is the least goes to We Not From 750. So We Not From 750 has 0 points from post-draft acquisitions. I don't even know how that's possible. Oh no, okay, that's not from the season. That's from a single game. Excuse me. On the season, he has average 11 points per week from post-draft acquisitions. Okay, this is a pretty cool thing to look at on the numbers. All right. Most touchdowns in a single week go to Big Trust with 12. He has the highest average on the season of 6. Least go with 1. Goes to several teams. Corey Championship Team, I Love Cam Newton, FTW, Boomer Bust, your player got hurt. And Corey's Championship Team has the least on the season, period. Most passing yards on the season goes to I Love Cam Newton, 445, but the season average goes to Big Trust there. Nice. The least goes to Corey's Championship Team, and that's week 14 when he lost Lamar Jackson. So that explains that. And on the season average goes to Raw Dog Supreme. Most rushing yards in a single week goes to Indianimals. Indianimals did well with his running back situation and securing their backups when needed. So that's understandable here. He lost Derrick Henry early, and Derrick Henry was on pace to be the best running back for in the league 2 years in a row prior to getting hurt. So it's no surprise there. In a single week, the least amount of rushing yards was 25 by I Love Cam Newton to Labarcus Prime. The lowest amount of rushing yards from any team goes to Big Trust. That's a little surprising seeing how Big Trust scored so much all season. I guess it just hasn't been coming from his running backs. Most receiving yards in a single week goes to Bleep the Fantasy Football Guides in week 3. Almost 500 yards there, but the season average goes to Big Trust. The least goes to Raw Dog Supreme, and the season average goes to We Not from 750. Most field goals, we already discussed the best kickers, so it's no surprise that it's Boom and Bust and Indie Animals there. And they also have the season average. There's several teams with the least of 0 field goals. And the season most season average is Corey's championship team and We Not from 750. So there you have it, folks. Lastly, we have the league medals. You have let's see. So the medal leader goes to Labarticus Prime on the season. He has 27 out of 58. Sean has 24 out of 58. I have 23. Cedric has 23, and so forth and so forth. You guys can look it up later yourself if you want to. The people that's in the league, this isn't really an important stat. But anyway, that concludes the episode for this week, guys. Good luck to the people that are actually in the playoffs. I hope none of you win. I actually don't root for anybody here. But it is what it is. I'm on the outside looking in, and I'll be just sitting by waiting for people to fall that don't make it. But regardless, that's the end of the episode for this week. So thanks for listening, watching. Link, like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. We will be continuing to show everything that happens throughout the playoffs. We will not abandon ship on this one. We will, even if we're not in it, we're going to come in with the same enthusiasm and still give you these episodes. All right. So with that being said, that's all I got for this week. Peace.